Welcome back, everybody, to another Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Toolbox Extra expert. But first, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, you've heard me say before, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I really recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our sponsorship shout outs, then listen to our Toolbox Extra guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Tables and Video Boards. Go to their website and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say many times, probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is the official high school sports administration platform for a number of states, thousands of ADs, and even if your state uses a different platform, you can be a Home Campus school. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com for more information. We also want to say thank you to Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with great success, and so will you. Check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We also want to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record board for all the teams, for all the different events, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to their website and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast and check out their products. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank our good friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. And while they were earning their master's degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We'd like to thank our friends at Hometown. Hometown is changing the game with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, digital ticketing. They're still the number one digital ticketing provider. But how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director or a principal, Hometown is going to make it easy for you to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. You'll find it all at hometown.com. We want to thank our good friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing expert. Whether it's a simple social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things that your athletic department's doing, go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you up and running in no time. It's professional graphic design made easy. That's Gipper.com. And don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, but especially for parents. And the information that would come back was almost always over the top positive. We still got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents, but we were able to address their concerns, usually keep them from turning into something big, and also convert them to that 98% approval rating. But having that data, it was incredibly valuable anyway, particularly when you're visiting with one of those frustrated parents, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast and a Toolbox Extra. Our guest today is somebody I like to call a friend of the show. Regular listeners will recognize the name Jennifer Peterson. She was on previously. If you missed her interview, go back. It's number 624. Jennifer has an incredible background in athletics as an athlete, as a coach. She was a high school athletic director. She is currently the director of coaching initiatives for the University of Washington Center for Leadership in Athletics. Oh, by the way, she's also a CSCS. They just don't give those certifications away. Jennifer, you're here to give us an update and some exciting new news in your program, but welcome back to the Educational AD
Awesome.
Podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I know last time when we spoke, we were kind of deep into course building, and so we actually just are wrapping up two new courses, and I wanted to just highlight those now because they're available. Um, we have two courses that are already up on the NFHS Learn platform, so they're free and accessible to all coaches across the country. We also offer them on our own LMS, which is at uwcla.edu. We have a bunch of coaches' resources up there. Coaches Handbook goes through our core practices. Everything is free and accessible for coaches. So the idea is that we just want to get quality content out to coaches and make sure that they have access to it. So we have two new courses that just came out, culture building. So one is on building and maintaining healthy cultures, which is really one of our favorite topics when we go out and do coaches trainings. It's also one of sort of the highest requested topics for us to come out and do trainings on. We talk about it in light of not only how to establish a healthy culture, but how do you maintain that throughout the season and how do you build that year after year when your roster turns over? Maybe you have a new program or your coaching role changes. And so we talk about it really just in all of those small moments that build up and create sort of that foundation of how athletes and coaches and anyone around your program understands what the core values are of your program, how to interact, how to behave, what the expectations are, all of those things that sort of infiltrate everything that your program does throughout the course of the season and throughout the course of the year. And then the second course that's about to launch, we're wrapping it up right now. We test all of our courses with coaches, so we make sure that they are tested for efficacy, user experience, all of those things. We want to make sure coaches enjoy the content, but also engaging with it on our online platform. So the second course that's going to release likely around the start of the school year is about using alternatives to physical activity as punishment. So the course is the title, I love the title. It's called To Run or Not to Run. And so it's a topic that I think a lot of coaches struggle with, whether or not using physical activity as punishment or as a reward, like the threat of taking physical activity like extra conditioning away, is the best strategy. And we go through and talk about what research and best practice has to tell us about that. We interview coaches, we interview athletes in the course as well to get their perspectives on whether or not it really helps their development, their overall experience, and how they feel about sort of that strategy or that coach's tool. And then we offer a bunch of alternatives. So the common uses for, trying to create pressure, trying to mimic game-like situations, trying to use it for, extra conditioning for behavior management, all of the things that coaches tend to sort of lean on it for. And then we offer a bunch of alternatives as far as how do you correct behavior? How do you create high pressure situations and prepare your athletes for competition without just putting them on the line, right? So instead of just, hey, on the line, let's run because you miss free throws, what's something else we can do to create that high pressure game like situation, but also help the athletes improve their skill set along the way? So, two really cool courses. We're really excited about them. They're going to be out for the fall. So, we'll have a suite of 4 courses on the NFHS platform and then on our own LMS as well. So, the easiest way to get to them, they're for free, is on our website at uwcla.edu. We have a whole coaches tab with our handbook and access to our online courses. So, yeah, a bunch of great resources.
All right, we're definitely going to put that in the show notes, and we'll have you share that again at the end. Boy, two great courses. I'm trying to decide which one I want to dive into first. I'm going to start with the culture one. Um, I speak now that I'm a retired AD. I'm a consultant, and so I come in as an expert because I don't have my own coaches or my own kids anymore. But uh, culture is something in one of my presentations. I'll talk to ADs or coaches, and I'll say, you walk into a school, you can tell right away, you know not
Yeah.
specifically what the culture is, but what the culture is. You can
Mhm.
feel that good, winning championship, whatever label you want to put on it. And the other end of the spectrum, you can tell they need to do some work on their culture. So, just some broad brushstrokes. I don't want you to give away the whole course right now, but what are some things that you feel are critical to establishing, I'll say, a positive culture for kids, coaches, parents, anything? Okay, what can you share with our listeners real quick?
Yeah, we talk a lot about alignment. So we use like an iceberg image or diagram to sort of highlight this and help it stick with coaches, but really just having alignment between the things that we are really explicit about. So your team activities, talking about vision, goal setting, all of the your core values, all of the things that you might put up like on a poster or a motto or things that are standalone events, but then also all of the things that are below the waterline. So, in iceberg, you have what you can see above the waterline, what you can't see below the waterline. So, all the things that you don't see. So, how you interact with each athlete, whether or not that's consistent with your core values, how you hold athletes accountable to what your expectations are, if that's consistent with your core values, your goals, your mission. So, making sure that all of the things that are really explicit and sort of highly visible above the waterline are in alignment with all of the things that are below the waterline. So the things that you do every day, how you sort of model behavior as a coach, how you hold your athletes and your team accountable to whatever your expectations are, whatever your core values are. And if there's misalignment between those, it impacts your culture in a negative way. So I always talk about it like in the regard to like an ATM. So every time you're interacting with your team, your athletes, your coaching, whatever it is that you're doing, you're either making a deposit and building your culture in a healthy way, or you're making a withdrawal and you're sort of contradicting your culture, or you're taking away from it, or you're um, breaking trust with your athletes, if that makes sense. And so we want to try to make sure that we're maintaining a positive balance, but we're also making a lot of deposits. So making sure that things stay in alignment with what we're saying we're going to do and what we want our team to do and what we're going to hold them accountable to. And then following that up with our actions and how we carry ourselves and how we manage our team, how we operate our program on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I love that word alignment. Certainly, it's not a new word, but in the way that you're using it, describing a program, makes perfect sense. All right, I want to ask you a question here. This is somewhat out of left field, maybe right field. Um, Literally last night, I was over in Tampa. I did a presentation at a school. The athletic director, longtime friend of mine, does a great job. Their school is very successful in any way you want to measure success, championships, transformational relationships with kids, et cetera. They do a wonderful job. Um, but he still has me come over and talk to his coaches every couple of years. And last night I got to talk to the parents too. All right. As I'm walking into their auditorium through a hallway, full size, wall size is their logo for their athletic department. And next to each part of the logo is a legend about what that part of the logo stands for, means in their culture, if you will. And I've never seen it before. I'm sure other people have done it, but I just thought that's pretty cool that they're taking the time to explain what their logo means. What, as I described that to you, you like that idea? Is that a dumb idea? What do you think?
Man, I dig it. I think it's important that we define things for our athletes, for our coaches, for our staff, and that we're not just giving sort of these broad, high level sort of carrots, if you will, of things that we want to stand for, but we're actually drilling down and giving actionable sort of steps of how we're going to do that, right? So we say we want to um, be good teammates. We want
Right.
to make sure that we're being positive both on and off the field. We want to make sure that we don't have to be best friends, but we want to be having each other's back, right? Like, let's say that that's one of our core values and that's sort of a foundation of our culture. Well, how are we going to do that? What's that going to look like? And coaches need to define that for their athletes. So that might look like, hey, we have conflict in a class and it has nothing to do with softball, right? And so something happens in a math class or something happens between a friend of mine who doesn't play on our team and you. I'm still going to have your back and I'm going to help you resolve that conflict because we're teammates and I have the best interest of the team and our relationship at heart. And so that's what that looks like. So breaking it down and explaining it and saying, hey, have your athletes involved. What does this look like? What does it look like when we have each other's back, both on and off the field? And really drilling it down to what those actionable steps are. So I think that legend is sort of a component of that. It's about being intentional about how we're going to establish our culture, but then how are we going to maintain that throughout the season? Right. So what does that look like for our team? How do we put that into action and getting really intentional about that?
Yeah, no, very, very cool stuff. I thought you might like it, but
Mhm.
I'd never seen that before, that to that detail, that effort to talk about, well, this is what our logo really means.
Yeah.
You mentioned student athletes and their part in developing a culture. I'm going to paint this in extremes, so bear with me. You know, at one hand, they're kids. What do they know? They're kids. But at the same time, they're the ones that we're expecting to be living, breathing, walking the walk and talking the talk of this culture. So how do you involve student athletes so that there's buy-in, but at the same time, it's not the and again, my words, inmates running the asylum.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core, as a coach, right, our primary role is to develop young people. So our job is to help facilitate this development and this process within their sort of learning while they're a part of our program. And so I think, of course, we're going to have expectations and create boundaries and make sure that our all of our athletes are physically and emotionally safe. And so we're there to sort of set those parameters and guidelines. But then within that, we need to facilitate their role within the program, their role within supporting what it looks like to achieve these goals or to have progress towards our goals, what it looks like to be a part of our program and support the culture that we're trying to build. So they need to be able to see themselves within it and have a role within it and feel valued within that space. I think is the biggest thing. And so that's going to look different for every program, right? I mean, everybody's culture, everybody's goals are a little bit different. But it starts with really just relationships and connecting, right? So getting to know your athletes, getting to understand who they are as humans, not just athletes, and understanding sort of what makes them drive, how to connect with them, how to bring them along, what their roles are, how to help them feel valued, and then giving them a voice within this process. So, I mean, it's their program, it's their experience, and so whatever we can do to give them autonomy and ownership within that is sort of our primary goal or our primary role, I think, as a coach.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And again, I tried to paint that in absolute, so it was maybe a little easier to answer. All right, let's jump into that other class. You used the word punishment, which I think in my generation, 100 years ago, take a lap, take 20 laps, all of that. That was just business as usual, and nobody questioned it. You talked about research. I don't think it takes a PhD to figure out that that's probably not the best way to get the results that we're after as coaches or as leaders. So, um, what are some ways that, what are some better ways that coaches can get the results they want, hold kids accountable, have that winning culture, and not be the dictatorial old school coach from the 1960s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to come back to that word intentionality, and we use it a lot about just making sure that we have alignment between what it is that we're trying to do. So, what our outcomes are, right? So, what is it that we're trying to actually achieve or pull out of our athletes? And then aligning that with whatever our strategies are, our instructional strategies, our coaching strategies to get that. So let's say I'm a basketball coach and we're working on free throws because our free throw percentage is really low in games. For whatever reason, our kids tend to choke under pressure, and we just have a hard time making our free throws on the line late in games, high pressure situations. So most coaches and I would do it as well, right? Starting out, we're going to shoot free throws and we're going to do them in sets of 10. For every free throw you miss, you're going to run it down and back, right? We're going to create that pressure situation. There's a consequence, a real life consequence right away. Um, if you miss your free throw, well, all it's doing is getting them tired, getting them to learn to hate running. They're not necessarily maybe thinking about their free throw mechanics or doing anything to actually improve their free throw percentage. So how can we get more intentional about, okay, we need to make sure that we have conditioning in our practice. So we'll run our lines at the end of practice, has nothing to do with made or missed free throws. But I'm going to create a high pressure situation. So maybe instead of doing sets of 10, we're going to do, you get one. We're going to do a 1-on-1. If you make it, you get to shoot another one and you get points for your team for every free throw made, right? And so now you're creating a situation that's high pressure, game-like, as far as creating real consequences that are similar to a game. If you miss, you're off the line. You'll get another chance later in the rotation, but you got to be able to make your first in order to get the second, something of that nature. Maybe if they miss, they go and they do some sort of a shooting mechanic drill or some sort of breakdown drill and then come back and get another chance. Something that's going to help improve their mechanics, but also create that sort of game-like scenario, high pressure situation that isn't just going and running. And as a strength person, right? So this is the other part of this. I'm a strength coach. The last thing I want is my athletes to hate conditioning when it's such a critical piece of improving their performance and really injury prevention, right? They need to be
Mhm.
conditioned, they need to be strong, they need to be prepared for performance. And so the last thing I want is for them to hate the things that they need to do in order to be prepared to perform at their highest level. And I do a lot of work just sort of reworking and sort of rewiring, reframing what exercise and conditioning and strength activities look like for athletes because they have a negative association with it from doing it as punishment for so long throughout their careers, right? And so just trying to reframe that for them, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, I had a coach, cross country track coach, and I'm sure he's not the only one that ever did this, but there was a sign on our stadium. It was somewhat tongue in cheek. It was, your sports punishment is my sports practice, talking about running. But you're absolutely right. We want our kids to embrace, maybe not like, but at least embrace, the strength and conditioning modalities that we use, whether it's on the track, in the weight room, or someplace else. Very, very cool stuff. I'm excited to see these courses come out. I'm definitely going to take advantage of the culture one so I can add a few tools to my toolbox. Jennifer, if one of our listeners wants to find out more about the University of Washington leadership program, the courses, or if they just want to connect with you, and listeners, you have a tremendous resource here on a number of different levels. How do our listeners connect with Jennifer Peterson?
Yeah, so the easiest way is to go to our website, just uwcla.edu. All of our coaches' resources are there. All of our staff pages are there. You can connect with us. You can sign up for our newsletter, and just stay up to date with with new courses, new trainings that we're putting out. If you're trying to get in touch with me directly, my email address is super easy. It's JP, as in Jennifer Peterson, cscs@uw.edu.
Well, Jennifer, thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with our listeners. All the best for a great fall and spring. And hopefully, we're going to connect in person at this year's Washington State Athletic Directors Conference.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, you bet. For our listeners, we want to say thanks to you and remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Toolbox Extra just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, we want to say thanks again to our great sponsors. Now, please go out and check these sponsors out, particularly if you're not using them. You're going to be very glad you did. Athletic surveys by LifeTrack. Take the pulse of everybody in your program. Use that information to take your program from good to great. Athleticsurveys.com. Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com for more information. Hometown. It's not just digital ticketing, but they're still the best digital ticketing provider. Go to hometown.com. Ohio University, if you're looking for a master's degree in athletic administration, look no more. Ohio University. Snap Raise, if you're looking for a fundraiser, guess what? You just found it. It's snapraise.com. Home Campus, you heard me say before, it's a platform you'll use every single day. Go to homecampus.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, if you're looking for a cool way to display your record boards or your Hall of Fame, you'll find it at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Gipper, become a social media marketing guru. Go to gipper.com. And Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Thanks again for listening to this segment of Toolbox Extra. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.